coordinator Mike Smith. Michael, we very much appreciate the time.
My pleasure.
And for more now, 1st and 10 time, here's Jay and Skip and the big guy, Jalen Rose.
That's right, the big man is in. Jalen, good to see you again. It's been a while.
How you doing?
I thought I was the big man.
No, I'm the new big man on campus has arrived.
Yeah, sorry, Skip.
What happened?
I'm very sorry.
Okay, so I'm not 6'8", Jay, but...
Well, how about this? Big on opinion.
Yeah, thank you.
Big in stature, Jalen Rose. Let's begin our 10 topics with the coaching rumors, if you will. I will say this, Michael Smith, the reporter, is very good and usually dead on accurate. He's saying it's Mike Smith, despite the fact that there are other reports out there saying not so fast. Let's base our opinion here on the assumption that Michael Smith is right and Mike Smith will be the next head coach of the Falcons. Is this the right guy for a situation, Jalen, that has been, to say topsy-turvy and controversial, I don't think does it justice? Is he the guy?
At this point, he has to be the guy. It's a who's who of people who didn't want this job. Bill Parcells didn't want to work in the front office. Pete Carroll didn't want to be the coach. Obviously, Bobby Petrino bolted to Arkansas for the money. So ultimately, they have taken their time. They've eyed their candidate. Yes, he was a part of the Ravens. He was a part of the Ravens that won a world championship. Yes, the Jacksonville Jaguars were regarded as the most physical team in the NFL, and he led that defense. So why not give him an opportunity to man the Atlanta Falcons team, who had one of the worst defenses in the red zone, points per game, yards per game in the NFL.
Yeah, they
get a defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
They need it.
They need it on defense.
Jalen, obviously I need to educate you a bit here today on the National Football League, because if this is true to me, this is mind-boggling. Arthur draws a blank because he's going from Parcells, Pete Carroll to Mike Smith. Are you kidding me? Because with the specter of Michael Vick hanging over this franchise, and it will continue to, Arthur Blank needed, obviously, to make a splash with a new GM and a new coach who had credentials that made those battered Atlanta Falcon fans say,
who's out there? Give us some names.
Well, no, wait, let me finish. So he goes and hires Thomas Dimitroff from the Patriots.
Right.
He's the head college scout. He's never been a GM. He worked under Scott Pioli, and then he lets Thomas Dimitroff turn around and hire a friend of his, a guy he knows he can control and get along with, Mike Smith, who has never been a head coach and who is the defensive coordinator of the Jacksonville Jaguars in name only. Because, trust me on this one, Jack Del Rio has always run that defense because he's a heck of a defensive coordinator. And now you're taking high risk on two guys in your front office and on your sideline who I don't know if you can trust or not. Maybe they'll be great, but I would have my doubts.
But ultimately, regardless of who you hire, they still have to get out there and perform. So that remains to be seen. He still may do a great job, but why not? But why be Arthur and write a blank check to somebody that may not get the job done?
And who is that somebody, Skip?
I don't know. Listen, I would go with Marty Schottenheimer before I'd go with Mike Smith.
Well, there's indications that if Marty doesn't want to go, how do you...
Okay, I'll go with Buddy Ryan's son Rex, who I trust me on this one. He's going to make a very good head coach, but he is a dynamic personality.
Right.
He runs the Ravens defense. I think he can run a football team, and he's too strong a personality for Thomas Dimitroff right now.
All right.
That's what you got, Atlanta.
We'll wait and
Congratulations.
see. We'll wait and see if he indeed is the new coach of the Atlanta Falcons. You don't go anywhere. We're going to split first down. More in just a minute, but right now, let's give the big uglies a little bit of love, because we only hear their names when they mess up. So, Josh, take it away.
Jay and wee little Skip Bayless. Waiting.
Wee little Skip has an opinion on the poll question. What's the biggest reason the Patriots are in the Super Bowl?
Because the quarterback had the greatest year quarterbacks ever had in the National Football League.
It's all about Tom Brady then?
Not all, but if you made me pick someone.
If you got to pick one, you're going Tom Brady.
It's all about Brady. There's no question.
All right. Our second question today in First Down deals with Terrell Owens, and that'll really get Skip's motor revving.
I have nothing to say, Jay.
Yeah, we'll see in a minute. All indications are Terrell Owens not only will get his $3 million roster bonus in March, but Jerry Jones leaning towards a contract extension. So yes, the star will be on T.O.'s helmet for at least one and probably more seasons. But bringing T.O. back with everything that he has going for him and sometimes against him, Jalen, is that smart or not?
Of course it's smart for the Dallas Cowboys. You're talking about a team that had the second best offense in the NFL. You want to re-sign Marion Barber. You already re-signed Patrick Creighton. You already re-signed Romo, and you have Jason Witten. You keep that offense together. You see what they can do next year. Hopefully Romo will stay out of Cabo during this bye week, and to see if the Cowboys can come out of the NFC next year.
You know, Jalen, it's commentators such as you who make sure that Jerry Jones remains caught hook, line, and sinker in the Terrell Owens trap. That's what I call it because, yeah, you're right. There's no way you can walk away from this guy who, right on schedule, will never quite live up to the talent that you see on the field when you absolutely need him. That's been my mantra on this show.
He had a bad year this year?
I thought he had a terrific year this year.
But for $3 million, he is one of the best in the game.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but when you make him your featured piece in your offense, he's the leader in your locker room, whether you like it or not, because he's the most dynamic personality, it's always going to be something with this guy. I don't deny his talent. Again, he cut down on his drops, though he still drops a lot of key passes, but at age 34, he gets hurt a lot. He'll get hurt when you least can afford for him to be hurt. He will disrupt your team. And right on schedule, he'll disappear when you need him the most because in the second half of the most crucial game of the year, when they had home field advantage all the way to the Super Bowl, Terrell Owens caught 0 passes in the second half.
Well, you got to give Jerry Jones a little credit. They do have a new arena coming, a new stadium coming. You want to keep your team intact. And ultimately, in the NFL especially, his contract can be incentive-laden. So if he finds a way to get out of line and not follow the rules of the team, they can shorten his salary.
But I just remind you, he's going on 35 years old now. And I also remind you that Jerry Jones, as the general manager of the Dallas Cowboys, has produced 0 playoff wins in the last 12 years. Just think about that.
The only team in the NFC to have not won a playoff game in that stretch, the Detroit Lions.
There you go.
So that's not necessarily...
Ironically, those are my 2 favorite teams.
I don't know what that says about you, Jalen. All right, that's it for first down. In second down, we're going to take a look at the MVP in the NBA. And there are a lot of choices, and I'm sure that's going to be a heated debate, as it always is. Also, on today's show, we're checking in a few times with Amy Nelson of ESPN.com. She's chatting live with you today. Amy, so tell us, what are fans fanatical about so far today?
Tom Brady and his boot. That's pretty much it. Everyone's talking about the Giants and the Patriots, and a few people have written in to say, why is this being covered so much? Why do we care that Tom Brady's walking the streets of New York? And James from Pennsylvania wrote in, and he said, it's clear Brady's faking it. He came to New York purposefully, knowing he'd get caught on tape. He's not stupid. He's just like his coach, a cheater and a scam. A little harsh, James. Then we have someone from Seattle, Washington, writing in, and he said, can we please not talk about Brady's mild ankle sprain anymore? Getting stories from TMZ is truly sad. Sidney Crosby's ankle injury is way more significant. And Skip, Sidney Crosby, he's a hockey player. It's a game, it's played on ice. Not as popular as it used to be, but wondering if you think it's as important as Brady's ankle injury.
Now what? Say that again. I'm sorry, they're talking in my ear. I couldn't hear the question.
Sidney Crosby.
Yes.
He's a hockey player. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
No.
Hockey. It's a
What's
game.
hockey?
Have you heard? Okay.
Sidney who?
Well, I noticed that Tom Brady is starting to have a lot of haters out there. Leave Tom Brady alone. The man was carrying flowers to a significant other, enjoying his day off. He wasn't in Cabo. He was in New York City.
Well, all I know is that Tom Brady played, to my eye, the worst playoff game he's ever played, and I thought there was something wrong with him, and if you listen to Ron Jaworski, he turned his ankle in the first quarter, and I think it really affected him. I think it's a story.
But the difference between that team and everybody else is they find a way to keep going. And they will go undefeated.
Somehow they have. Amy Nelson, thanks. We'll be checking in with you throughout today's program. A lot more coming up on today's show. T.O. was T.O. on the field. He did catch a club record 15 touchdowns and a harmonious, supportive Zen master off it. As long as you weren't a fading starlet. What the future holds for him in Big D. And with Maryland's upset of the top-ranked Tar Heels last week, Memphis ran its way to #1. Our college hoops experts reveals the secret to the Tigers' success. And while Super Frosh O.J. Mayo has gotten all of a pub, our college basketball insider will show you how another Trojans freshman has turned around. Skip, did you see the largest cheeseburger ever? What were your thoughts on it? It weighed 222 pounds. What's your thoughts on a 222-pound cheeseburger?
My worst nightmare.
A lot of people, that thing could be rolling around in your stomach all night.
Yeah, well, I don't know how many it took to consume it, but... Second down takes us to the NBA, so now we're on your home turf. And it's always a dilemma every year, and it's always a great debate, and it is this year as well. I want you guys to bring to the table right now your MVP to this point in the 2007-2008 NBA season.
Jay, you know that I always base my MVP on team success.
Right.
So right now, which team has the best record in the far tougher Western Conference? It's the Phoenix Suns.
Right.
Well, if you lose one game in the West, you might drop to 6. But go ahead.
You're right.
But they have two wins more than anybody else in the Western Conference. So who is averaging a career high 12 assists right now? It's Steve Nash, who continues to work miracles with that team because, as you and I have spoken, this team badly misses Kurt Thomas's inside presence on the boards and on defense. And again, 2 more wins than any team in the West. And I want to say this for the record, because a lot of people say, come on, you're in love with Steve Nash. I don't know Steve Nash. I don't like his politics. I don't believe in him. And finally, I could care less what color he is. I just think he is an incredible force right now in this league and continues to be at an advancing age.
Steve Nash, my former teammate, I respect him a ton. He's a tremendous player, and I agree with most of the points you made. But the points you're forgetting are they have 2 other All-Stars. Shawn Marion was an All-Star without playing with Steve Nash. Amari Stoudemire is an Olympian as well as Marion and could be an All-Star without playing with Nash.
You know what would happen without Steve Nash? Those 2 guys would start looking like dead-headed losers.
No, Marion.
Wow.
No,
They would.
No,
Both of them.
Marion has already been an All-Star without Nash, and Stoudemire could be. Barbosa is the 6th man of the year. Go to a team to a player who does more with less, who doesn't play with 2 other All-Stars, like LeBron James. That's right. He leads the league in the scoring. He averages 7 rebounds and 7 assists. The Cavs are winless without him. Oh, and he's done something Steve Nash hasn't done. That's won a championship. That's right. They won the Eastern Conference Championship last year, while Phoenix has flamed out every year since Nash has been there.
Flamed out? Oh, now you're saying flamed out when they got robbed against the San Antonio Spurs last year?
Well, you call it robbed. I say robbed is when Larry Johnson, I'm playing for the Indianapolis Pacers, and he gets a 4-point play at the end of the game that's not a 4-point play.
Oh, now you're changing the subject on me.
Nobody cares about what happened. The bottom line is we look at results. We're not going to make excuses for the Phoenix Suns.
Okay.
They didn't get it done.
Are you talking about the same LeBron James who the other night in San Antonio sat on the bench and watched as his supporting cast that you have no respect for
wouldn't say that.
went on a 22-7 run with no Prince James on the floor?
You said the key word. It's a team game. But what about this? Whose supporting cast is better? Steve Nash or LeBron James?
Right now, I think it's closer than you give it credit for.
But you're not answering the question.
Okay, but one guy's in the East and one guy's in the West.
You're not answering the question.
All right. Obviously, Nash's is a little better, but not that much better.
Okay.
I think if you took him out of there, that team would go nowhere because it would be it'd have the headless horseman.
Steve Nash is tremendous. Don't get me wrong. His supporting cast and his team. He's the MVP of the Phoenix Suns. He's not the MVP of the NBA.
Steve Nash is shooting 90% from the free throw line. Your guy is shooting 70% from the free throw line.
That's one stat.
That's one stat.
Steve Nash is shooting 47% from the three-point line. Your guy is shooting 29% from the three-point line. That's awful, Jay. Awful.
You remember the team Steve Nash used to play for, the Dallas Mavericks, how we thought they would flame out without Nash? They're doing pretty good, right?
They tend to flame out with Dirk.
Okay.
Well, they've survived. They've done well.
They've come out of the Western Conference and Phoenix hasn't.
All right, let's move it to our next topic, which again should be a good debate because you're talking about 2 teams that you scratch your head and say, how in the world can they be this bad? The Knicks and the Heat. And you'd like to think that one of these 2 teams is going to turn it around, but there really aren't many signs there. Who has the better chance of turning things around? Is it the Knicks or is it the Heat?
Well, thanks, Jay. That's a great question. I mean, how do you answer that question?
Well, I hope you can.
Okay, I can't believe I'm saying this, but right now, the New York Knicks are the lesser of those 2 evils because, Jalen, I look at Shaquille O'Neal, who I used to idolize, and I have never seen a superstar lose it so fast right before your very eyes because he is just a broken down shell of his former Diesel self. And Dwayne Wade, who I raved about him on this show 2 years ago, he's gained 20 pounds. And maybe some of it's muscle, maybe some of it's not, but he has lost his explosion. He's not that great of an outside shooter. So now I look at the New York Knicks and I say, okay, with Stephon out of the way, out of the picture right now.
He's not out of the picture. He's still on the book.
Okay, but I still say, I think he won't be on the books next year. I don't know that for a fact, but if he's not on the books, I look at Zach Randolph and Jamal Crawford and little Nate Robinson, who's a real spark plug off the bench, and I say, okay, I'll take the Knicks.
I agree with you for the player reasons, but also for different reasons. And the different reasons are, the reason why the Miami Heat's future isn't going to be that bright as the New York Knicks is, the New York Knicks are willing to spend a lot of money. So ultimately, they're going to do that. The Miami Heat have realized we don't want to go over the salary cap anymore.
That's a fair point.
And their 3 top name draws. Pat Riley won't be there after a couple of years. Shaquille O'Neal won't be there after a couple of years. And a matter of fact, Dwayne Wade, who can opt out of his contract, if his team stays the way it is, he won't be in a couple of years. So without those three guys, they have no future at all. We can't really speculate on the Knicks' future. Why? Because we don't know if Isaiah Thomas is going to be there. We don't know if the players that you mentioned are going to be there. We don't know if they're playing those guys so they can shop them. Out of those two teams, Dwayne Wade is the best overall player.
All right, and the rest of the Miami roster, I'm not sure it could win the SEC right now. Seriously.
Tough times in Miami. It wasn't long ago either when they were kings of the basketball universe. That's it for second down. In third down, maybe it's the Brady ankle, or maybe Giant Nation is just gaining momentum, but the line for Super Bowl 42 is going down. We'll debate why. Also ahead, more NFL news is on the way. The Detroit Lions exploded out of the
And the omnipotent Skip Bayless,
who's never been to In-N-Out, I can assure you. Josh is educating me. The double-double animal is a double hamburger where the condiments are actually grilled onto the bun. Who knew?
You got to go to Fat Burger.
I have been to
and get
Fat
a
Burger
turkey
and
burger.
In-N-Out in my life.
But you got to get
in
it.
my former life, I definitely went to
Yeah,
both.
when you ate that kind of
But you got to get your burger with egg on it. You can get that at Fat Burger. It's very good.
burger.
I like my burger with only egg on it, actually.
All right. It's
Bread,
all foreign
mayo.
to me. It's all foreign to me. I'm not an egg guy. What can I say? All right, let's start third down by talking about the point spread for Super Bowl 42. Initially, New England was a 13.5. If you watch some, 14-point favorite. The Giants, the big underdog. But now, according to today's USA Today, that number is shrunk to 12. 12 points down from 14. What do we make of that?
Jalen, I am not a betting man, but I know enough to know that is a huge, significant drop in the betting line, and I think it reflects a general feeling that I get from just watching TV or hearing the comments in the hallway or out on the street, that all of a sudden I get the feeling that New England's the underdog in this game because the Giants bandwagon is really rolling right now. Maybe it's Brady's ankle, maybe it's Moss's troubled psyche, maybe it's just the pure betting fact that New England has failed to cover 8 of its last 10 spreads, hasn't covered one since that December 9th game, that Anthony Smith game against Pittsburgh at Foxborough. While New York has covered 5 straight and obviously won 3 straight games on the road that virtually none of us gave them a chance to win. But I think this is going to serve Bill Belichick very well because all of a sudden the Giants can't use that no respect motivation that has carried them through those road games.
They are still a 12-point dog.
Okay, but I'm getting the feeling, it's just a general feeling. I think New England will use this. You know, Bill Belichick is a master of motivation, and he'll use this as a slight.
Well, I think they're more motivated to go undefeated than they care about the point spread, first off. Second, the point spread was high anyway. You're talking about the Super Bowl, Skip. 14 points, that's very high. But also, you see some chinks in their armor, true, and that make more people bet on the Giants, like seeing Tom Brady with an injured ankle, like seeing Randy Moss potentially have to go to a hearing on January 28th. Those things sway the bettors. But ultimately, if it was all even, you bet on the Patriots. They're going to win.
Oh, to cover, you mean?
They're probably not going to cover, but they will win the game.
Yeah,
I'm
with you on that, but I just think the psychological advantage is shifting to New England right now.
All right. Let's talk about Mike Holmgren. His decision came a little quicker than some. Initially, it was reported it might not come until later in the week. Announced yesterday he's back for one more season. We talked yesterday about Tony Dungy and his process of deciding whether or not to come back, and then it's 1 year at a time. Now we know Holmgren will be back for one more year. Is that a good idea?
All right, so, Jalen, we now have 2 very spiritual NFL head coaches, Tony Dungy, Mike Holmgren, who have taken very different approaches in the last 48 hours. Tony Dungy says, okay, I'm going to come back for one more year, maybe more, I'll revisit it. And now you got Mike Holmgren saying yesterday, this is it. For sure, this is my last year. I favor the Holmgren approach because I still say with Dungy, his players got to think, does he have 1 foot in and 1 foot out, or is he totally committed to this or just sort of committed to this? While Holmgren is saying, I am completely, utterly committed to having my greatest year ever next year, and I think the players can dedicate the year to him because they do love him, I think as much as Tony's players love him.
I agree about Holmgren. Since 2003, they have the best record in the NFC, along with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yep.
That's a surprise. He's also the 5th coach to take 2 teams to the Super Bowl, so Holmgren is big time, and he holds multiple hats. coach, GM,
Yep.
VP. Not too many guys in sports are able to juggle those positions and do a great job.
Though he's lost a little bit of his authority.
But I disagree with you on how to make your decision. Ultimately, it's just that, your decision. You get the opportunity to make it, and Tony Dungy has afforded himself that opportunity, being a Super Bowl champion, being an honorable man. If Holmgren knows that this is his last year, it's up to him to say that, Jay. But if Dungy doesn't know, it's all right to change his mind. With professional sports, we change our minds all the time.
As a player, though, and I know it's different between football and basketball, as a player, does it make a difference to you if you know your coach is in it for one more year, or we don't know down the road?
Well, I knew that Larry Bird was going to coach our team for 3 years when I played with the Indiana Pacers. We went to the Eastern Conference Finals 3 years into the NBA Finals his last year. So it was like win one for the Gipper with Larry.
There you go.
It's the same effect for Tony Dungy. And they know there's replacements in effect with Jim Caldwell right there in their locker room.
All right, interesting. Let's talk about the NBA again. Larry Brown has violated a bit of a gag order here, because when the NBA gave him the settlement from the Knicks, David Stern basically said, we're not going to say anything about the Knicks. He has made some comments derogatory of the Knicks in a Philadelphia Magazine article, but more importantly for our discussion, he's actually said he wouldn't mind coaching again. He is with the Philadelphia 76ers. He's certainly not as a coach. Says he doesn't want to coach the Sixers, but he would coach again. If you're in the market to hire a coach, are you going to hire Larry Brown?
This is the perfect time to have this conversation. You know why? We just talked about stability. And last time I checked, Larry Next Town Brown has coached 2 ABA teams, 8 NBA teams. He's 67 years old. He got paid $18.5 million to walk away from the Knicks. He got paid $10 million to coach a Knicks team that I played on the second half of the season that was 23-59. Why would you bring him in when he brings you no future or no stability?
So you wouldn't hire Larry Brown?
Absolutely not. I would give somebody else an opportunity. He had a great career, a Hall of Fame career. He won a championship with Detroit, but ultimately he's had his turn.
Man, I got to tell you, if Larry Brown is healthy, and I'm not sure about his overall health, I jump on Larry Brown right now. You got to give him 3 years, but this is one of the greatest coaches ever. Would you agree with that?
Potentially.
Okay, the greatest rebuilder I've ever seen, and I can go right down the list: Clippers, Spurs, Pacers, Sixers, Pistons.
Not with the Knicks,
turned
though,
them
his
around.
last time out.
Wait a second. You got to give him 3 years. Right now, if Larry Brown coached the New York Knicks,
got to give anybody 3 years if that's the case.
I promise you. Well, no, I promise you right now, if you'd let him, he had to tear it down to build it up. That's
but he tears down. I play for Larry Brown in Indiana and New York. He also tears his situation and his players down to build them back up.
Okay, but
the Indiana Pacer team, the last Indiana Pacer team he coached, basically the same team. We didn't make the playoffs. We got Larry Bird the next season. We made the NBA final. We went to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Okay, but my point is, I can show you again and again where with 3 years, and you can only give him 3 years, because after that he's going to burn everybody out on himself. But he turned all those teams around, and he would have the New York Knicks right now in contention in the East. I know him. I mean, you watch what he did. You could watch him in college with the Bruins and the Jayhawks. 3 years, they turn around and they become contenders.
You also mentioned his health issue. You also mentioned you can't have him around too long because he's going to burn out. So why would you bring a guy in at 67 years old to lead your franchise when you know that?
Because he might win me a championship in the 3rd year.
No way.
All right.
He's won 1 championship in all of those years. I don't think he's going to give you one.
He has made all his teams better, but that's a good point. Yeah, not a whole lot of rings there. That's it for 3rd down. And 4th down, the Spurs have been, well, they've been human this year. Can they repeat? We're going to debate that. Right now, let's check in with Amy Nelson again. She's been chatting online all day with our viewers. Amy, what's hot right now?
So, Jay, all I did was say, let's talk about the Knicks, and oh my gosh, did the floodgates open. My gosh. And it's interesting. Obviously, most people aren't very happy with Isaiah Thomas, and a couple of people wrote in to say that they thought Mark Jackson, former Knick and former New York City standout, should coach the Knicks. And Rob from Washington, D.C. said, disagreed. He said Mark Jackson has enough sense to not even want the Knicks job. His taking that job is like whoever becomes president this year. They'll inherit a complete mess starting at the top. That begins with Knicks owner James Dolan, who doesn't have a clue. And I was at the Garden the other day for the Celtics game, and they started chanting, "Let's go Giants," I think maybe to spite Isaiah. And I said, you know, how can the culture at the Garden change? And we have Jeff from Michigan who wrote in to say, the Garden will only change when the team starts winning. They won't win when Larry Brown going senile over spies, along with Dolan and Isaiah enjoying their losing atmosphere. If Dolan was serious about winning, get a fiery coach, and Jay, get Isaiah out of there.
All right, we seem to hear a lot of that these days from New York Knicks fans. Amy, thanks. We'll see you again in just a little while. Still to come on today's show, things are so bad for the Heat, they lose even when they don't play. Shaq on Appropriate with Jalen Rose here. Let's talk about the San Antonio Spurs. I know you love the NBA. You do 10 Topics NBA every day of the year if you had your way. The San Antonio Spurs, we know they're the defending champs, and we know that switch is there somewhere for them to flip. But when you look at the standings, it's pretty bizarre to see them right now as the 5 seed out west. I say that, but then I can also say that they're just 2.5 games from the top spot. Of course, right now the Phoenix Suns have the best record out there. So all that being said, will they be able to repeat?
I'm a gambling man, not a betting man. But if I was betting on the San Antonio Spurs, I probably would, since they're the defending champion and all. But are they going to win the championship this year? My guess is no. I can't tell you who's going to beat them, but they just don't look like they have the same swagger that they had the last year when they won the championship. I can't say it may be Phoenix, Dallas, New Orleans, Denver, whoever's going to knock them off. But they look a step slower. They look a little bit older. They don't look as deep. Their starting 5 doesn't look as strong. Their bench doesn't look as productive. And I do not see the San Antonio Spurs repeating this year.
SOS. Same old Spurs. I hear this every year at this time. They're too old. They're too slow. They're too unathletic. They're too uninspired. They're boring us to death. And you know and I know that they'll turn it on and they'll turn it off, and then they'll turn it way up when it's time to in May. They're 26-13 right now. This time last year they were 27-12, and I was hearing all the same stuff. And so one of these years you're going to be exactly right. I don't think it's this year. I still think they're the Spurs.
And one of the things that we don't appreciate about the Spurs dynasty as fans is that they haven't had a back-to-back situation. This will put them in a situation of back-to-back, something they haven't done. The reason why they probably haven't done it is because it takes a lot of games out of your players. A lot of Tim Duncan going deep into the playoffs. And then ask them to come back and play a big regular season, then a big postseason. I just don't see them holding up. I'm not sure if it's going to be injuries. I'm not sure it's going to be circumstance, but I don't see them repeating.
Well, right now, Mr. Longoria, Tony Parker is hurt. He's got a heel injury, and he doesn't have his quickness anymore. Yeah.
And don't count them out. You know, they always seem to be there at the end. And I'm sure they'll be well rested by the time the playoffs roll around. Let's talk about the situation in Los Angeles. Not so rosy there. In fact, there's a lot of mudslinging going on right now between Clippers owner Donald Sterling and their coach Mike Dunleavy. Listen, according to the LA Times, Donald Sterling says, "I'm not happy. The fans aren't happy and can't be happy when they don't see a motivated performance." He went on to say, "I want to make LA fans proud of this team, but if Elgin Baylor and Mike Dunleavy can't make it happen, then I have no choice but to make changes." Pretty strong words for an owner talking about a coach who is still his coach. Dunleavy fires back, "I'm very frustrated too, but I'm also frustrated with the organization." He went on to say, "I saw this coming but had 2 deals out there that they didn't want to do. It contributed to where we are now." Gentlemen, pick a side.
First off, I love it, period. It kind of reminds me of Billy Martin and George Steinbrenner. I just love it.
On a much lower level.
Second off, we asked for Donald Sterling to spend more money, and guess what? He has done it. He spent more money on the roster. Yes, they don't have Elton Brand, but they still have a formidable team. They still have Sam Cassell. They still have Coutinho Mobley. They still have Tim Thomas. Al Thornton is a rookie stud. Yep. Chris Kaman's having an all-star type season. And Mike Dunleavy has a $20 million contract. I think he is doing a good job with the injuries that his team has occurred, so I wouldn't say fire Mike Dunleavy, but ultimately I love it. Oh, and by the way, he's a shrewd businessman, this Donald Sterling. You know why? Last time I checked, the Clippers play in the same building as the Lakers, kind of like the JV team. They rent out that building for 41 days. Smart businessman.
All right. I am not the biggest Mike Dunleavy fan, but how can you not take his side on this one? Because let's remember, he did lose Elton Brand and Sean Livingston, who was going to be a stud. How can you, what can you expect from him? He wanted to make a deal, Maggette for Jason Terry, which I think would have been a great move for them. And Donald Sterling said, no, I love Maggette. Then he wanted to sign Beno Udrih, who has been terrific for Sacramento, and some bean counters said no.